Welcome to Your Next Level Now with your host, Bob Donnell. As a human behaviorist, Bob has helped people from every walk of life reach their next level, both personally and professionally. Whether a celebrity, professional athlete, or entrepreneur, Bob has helped them align their behavior with their desired result in their life and career. This is Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell.
All right. Well, good morning. Welcome, everyone, to the Next Level show. We have, sometimes you meet somebody that you just really have a fun time with. And this gentleman I met many years ago. And I remember he invited me to come down to his house in Redondo Beach. And we just connected for a couple hours and just had a blast. I mean, this guy knows how to live his life. He loves life. And everything I know about him has just been an extension of his just living his life, having a fun time doing it, and really connecting with some great people along the way. So Bill Ganz, welcome, brother.
Welcome, Bob. Good Monday morning.
Good Monday morning. You know, Bill, I just remember when I got invited to your house and walking up your staircase, where on the left side of the wall were just all these pictures of all these events and people that you had met and connected with all through the years. I know when I hang pictures like that in my house, I know each one of those has such a special memory that I could tell a story about every one of those pictures that I have. I know you have some amazing stories. As you walk up there, which are the ones that really stand out to you when you see those pictures?
You know, each one of those people, whether they were film or television or music or authors or motivators or coaches or industry experts, every one of them, as you know, putting those photos up on your wall, each have a story. And they go back to, for me, it's unique. I was a kid growing up in San Diego at Army Navy Academy, surfer kid, worked in restaurants, lifeguard. And I got involved in entertainment and thought I really liked that. All my friends in San Diego said, dude, you can't go up to Los Angeles and be getting the entertainment business. So I look at that wall like, I don't want to say 37 or 40 years later, but it's like I almost did it, like despite what everybody said I couldn't do.
Yeah, I love it. But isn't that funny how the people who've never done it will be the ones that tell you can't, right?
In all cases.
Right. The people who've done it, like I always use the analogy, if you walked up to Warren Buffett and said you're going to be a millionaire, he'd be like, okay, let's set out a plan. You walk up to some of our friends and go, I'm going to be a millionaire. And they go, you can't do that. Why did the person who's already done it say, yeah, okay, let's set out a plan and do it? It's just so funny. But so who did you surround yourself with when you first got up to LA? Probably, I don't know how many people you knew in the entertainment industry, but who did you start hanging out with and associating with?
I didn't know a single soul. I went from Pacific Beach and La Jolla up to Hollywood Boulevard, where I was studying at a engineering school. I got 9 engineering degrees in film and video. And from day one, I sat in the curriculum and I sat next to this fellow named Tony Smith, and he was executive producer at Allied Artists. We got to talk and I was sharing my passion. He goes, do you want a job? And I said, I am here. My first day. You can't do this the first day. The executive producer of Allied Artists said, you want a job? And I worked all through my schooling, aggressively doing, major entertainment projects, managing film studios, touring with bands. Everything I was studying, I was doing as of day one, only because of my willingness and identifying, real leaders like Tony Smith.
Yeah, your willingness. I think that's such a great point. How many times have we missed an opportunity just because we haven't been willing to either take the risk or possibly be embarrassed or be shot down? What gave you the tenacity to go ahead and do that, even though you had all your friends saying no? And I'm sure there were some voices inside you going, well, maybe, but how did you find the courage to do it anyways?
I know it was just in me. I have a strong motivation myself. Years later, I've owned my own agency since '94, production company and media and live events. But I always just said to myself, you can do it. I was very influenced by PMA, Positive Mental Attitude, the book and the movement. And I just think that's it. You can sit around and convince yourself you can't do it real easily. Left brain, right brain wants to hear that, but I always went down to my heart. And I've always been more, IQ than EQ. I had a very low grade point average in school, and but that didn't preclude me from learning. I was very autodidactic, so I just knew I could do it, and I didn't let simple things limit me. And we face that every day, all of us.
Sure, sure. Such a great point. You have this huge personality. I mean, I remember the first time I met you, I was like, this guy is like bigger than life, and he's just loving his life. He's just loving having fun. You have this one thing that you do when you hang out, when you take pictures, you raise a hand, right? Can you say why you do that and what that's all about?
I started in 2005 in social media, but I'd always been in media and marketing and branding. And when social media came around, I initially hacked an EDU so I could get a Facebook account in 2005. But I started seeing the impact. In 2008, I wrote a book called The Belongings Network. And I said that a person's contribution meant more to them personally and professionally than it would, significantly. Like, people give more to their charity and their church than they do their job and their family because of significance. But how are you going to break through this up and coming thing, social media and social networking? So I just came up with a brand affinity, as you see it neurophysically in all the millions of photos you may see on social media. There's this one guy, and I've been to 52 countries speaking and training, producing shows, coaching people, and people say, are you that guy? So, I mean, so how do you break through the media of social media, in countries, you'll be in Eastern Europe and they'll be like, it's so silly, it's the simplest thing, but it really is about the heart. I was Tony Robbins' executive producer for many years, and I would go back and forth to his island in Fiji called Namale as a resort. And I would be there for long periods of time. And the Fijian people, I couldn't speak their language unless they spoke English. And so I would always go by, bula bula, and I'd be in the car. And they thought I was mayor. They really weren't sure who I was. I just tried to bula bula, never bula bula. This universally in every language means open heart. While it's a wave, it doesn't matter who you are. Ubiquitously means open heart. It means hello in some form of gracious greetings. So for me, I want anybody to see that, to know that my heart is open, my innocence is pure, my sincerity is genuine, and people turn around and they smile, and I'm smiling and they're smiling, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, you get to town and they'd say, oh, buy you a beer, and it was nothing more than I would pass them on the street and wave. Or it's happened in every country I've ever been in, frankly. And I've just found it to be this signature that represents me and my heart.
That is powerful. That is such a powerful acknowledgement. And I remember when I saw the picture, the first time I saw you do it, I was like, I wonder what that's all about. So I said, I got to ask him. And so when I asked you, you explained that, I thought, man, that's a pretty powerful statement to make, something so simple, so relevant to anywhere in the world. I love that. You mentioned working with Tony Robbins and as executive producer of his shows. Like, were you working on like Date with Destiny? Were you working at UPW? Were you working on a lot of his different programs, or one in particular?
We were producing a seminar series for many, many years for another client. And one of Tony's in-room managers for his events used to come to our events. And she said, Tony would like to meet you. I said, oh my gosh, well, I had been designing a show. I work at the largest staging company in the world called Audiovisual Headquarters. I designed the stage for the account manager and the sales guy in 90. And in 94, they said, would you come meet with Tony? He wants to fly you to Hawaii. And I said, sure, we'd love to come over and visit with him. And it was a life mastery series. Takes about a month to load in. It's 10 days long. Goes through life mastery, health mastery, wealth mastery, all these different things. And I came in, and no one had ever achieved his goal as an audiovisual producer, as a technical producer, as a creative producer. We were able to shave a significant amount of money in the 7 figures off the show, achieve his goals and exceed his goals that no one had ever done. He said, you'll be with me for a long time. So we produced, virtually almost everything he did, but we focused on the bigger events. Were twice a year in Hawaii. Then there'd be a show series going around America. Then there'd be Date with Destinies and Wealth Masteries and all different kinds of products he has, 1-day events, 3-day events, 5-day events, 10-day events. And then we'd do his multimedia and his promotions and his website and his social media and marketing materials. And then we'd fly around and do series with different people that he would speak with, Harry Dent, the static contraction people, all the show series that he would do featuring on his training or in his programs. We would shoot all those as well, offline, and edit them and then bring them to the events or market them. Or we just had so many different opportunities with him. It was really infinite because he included us on his business, on his events, on his multimedia, on his travels, capturing his life behind the scenes, in front of the camera, on stage. It was a very wonderful journey with Tony for a very long time. And it was the hardest work I've ever done. And I come out of entertainment, which is interesting because folks will tell you, I worked 40 hours this week. 40 hours. I would do 40 hours by Tuesday for 37 years, 7 days a week. And someone trying to tell me they worked. I've worked 5 careers.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's crazy, but we've gotten so used to having this lifestyle thing where we want to be able to just work X amount of hours and stuff. And, I think we need to do it by design, right? But that was something you did by design. You created it that way and you were willing to do it that way for a long period of time. And it created so many great experiences and opportunities and business opportunities for you that no wonder you are looked up to and regarded so highly in the media industry. You have just done so much. And like you say, you've done probably a lot more in the first 10 years of that than most people will ever do in their entire lifetime. So, but what were some of the best learning experiences you've had in the last, all those years doing not just Tony, but all the events and everything that you've done? What are some of the biggest learning experiences?
Well, I got to tell you about the learning experience because it's profoundly hit me in the last couple of weeks. I've sat back. I retired 6 years ago and I began working more than I was working in my career, which is so funny. I went off to Thailand and developed a software platform for a client here in Alabama, a jobs program. But I sat back and reflected on my whole life. I started touring with bands. I did that for 8 years, living on private planes and tour buses, all over the world, doing concerts. And then I went into more multimedia, then film and television, then live events. But I sat around, I thought, what was the most impactful time of my life? And when was I happiest? When was I most successful? And this is an interesting reflection. So I'm sort of changing the question a little bit, pivoting, but I think it applies to what you're saying is I thought about the times when I was happiest, and I thought about the times I was least happy. I thought about the times I was making the most money. I thought about the times I was making the least amount of money. And I came up with this very interesting thing. That's why I want to share it. The times I was happiest and I was making the most money, most successful, is when I was outcome oriented and not income oriented. I've had this very profound shift and awakening, which has really remotivated me to launch this new company. And I have about probably 20, 25 more good years of my life. Praise God. I have my health. I have my faculties. And I'm going off on this thing where I know that giving is more important than receiving. And in this idea of being more outcome oriented than income oriented, the times in my life I was income oriented, I generally made least amount of money. I had the least amount of fun. And I said, gosh, I really didn't like that guy, but heck, I thought I could make money. Awful. The times I knew I was doing spiritually, emotionally, physically, psychologically, doing what I wanted to do, doing what I loved, I ended up making the most amount of money is when I was outcome oriented. And I had this opportunity to do this infomercial series with a human potential expert named Bijan. And he would say that this effortless prosperity concept, which was illustrated by whatever takes 3% of your effort to get 100% return is what's your God-given gift.
Wait,
and so I really,
that's powerful.
It's amazing because you think about corporate America, they'll make people do a job they're not good at and then blame them. Takes 100% of their effort, they get a 3% return, and then they have to go up for an annual review from their boss. You're not doing very well, Bill. Gosh, I don't love this at all. It's so funny you say, I'm not even cut out to do this. You're the one that put me in this role. You're the one that talked me into this role. You hired me for what I was good at, and then you made me do something isn't even in my resume. I had this in corporate America. I worked in corporate America from 88 to 94, the largest production company in the world. I was senior producer, and man, I hated that. We're doing big things, but I hated that because you'd get back and you'd been up for 72 hours producing a show, and they'd tell you what was wrong. You'd be like, what was wrong? I worked 22 hours a day for the last 5 days, and you're telling me what's wrong? Let's at least celebrate for a moment.
Right. Man.
That's when I knew I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I knew I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Both of those statements, outcome versus income, what a powerful statement. And then, man, so how does someone do that though? How do they get to that point where they're living what they're supposed to be living versus living what everyone else tells them to? How do they do that?
Well, I think there's an internal exercise you can do externally that's fairly simple. Just get out a sheet of paper and a pen. Draw a line right down the middle from the top to the bottom. On one side, say the left side, things I'm good at and I like doing. On the other side, things I don't like doing and I'm not good at. And just literally play this exercise. I've done it hundreds of times. And I just write down, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to do this. For God's sakes, I have more energy than the energizing bunny. But I just focus on this, and I look at the things in the column I'm not so good at and I don't enjoy doing. And when you get good at that, and I've run public and private companies as CEO, C-level operative, and in many different things. Investor teams used to place me in companies for workouts and turnarounds and startups and betterment projects. And I would do this with myself, but with other people, because I truly think as a leader, you have to do this with all the people in your organization so that you can provide leadership. Because, when you're in that leadership role, it's a responsibility. So you as well have to help people identify their strengths. And to me, that truly is leadership, whether you're doing it internally for yourself or externally for somebody else. But I've helped hundreds of people grow exponentially, change their lives because they do this exercise. And I start by doing it with them. And I say from the outside, it appears to me that you're this. And oftentimes I'll do it with people and tears will come down their eyes. They may not even be able to articulate their own strength, but I was very limited in my learning. I went to Army Navy Academy. I was on the board of trustees the last couple of years. I was on the board of directors. I graduated 40 years ago, and somehow having the lowest grade point average in the history of the Army Navy Academy, having been around for 125 years, and for a decade, they're calling on me to help them with social media and marketing, online, offline, mobile media marketing, different, campaign approaches. Then they asked me, will I be on the board? I asked the general, I said, did you look up my grade point average? Because to date, I still have the lowest grade point average in the history of the institution. Now, what was so funny was,
that's funny.
I would, in my sophomore year there, junior year and senior year, I would go up and I would appoint who would be the president, secretary, and treasurer of the school. I would get the entire cadet body. So I had a motivational skill, and yet I didn't have this, normal right and left brain learning. I was very ADD. I am dyslexic. So I had to be very autodidactic. I had to teach myself, but I knew things inherently about human characteristics. I could look at neurophysiology. I could look at different strengths in people. I could see things in pictures in people that they couldn't see in themselves. So I just used every skill I had to get through and to get by, but I could always manifest everything I wanted, which is a weird skill. I think it's inherent because they don't teach it anywhere. So it's got to be God-driven coming through me.
That's fascinating. I love the IQ, EQ, that whole realm. I love that realm. When did you learn this about yourself though? When did you say, okay, this is something that I'm this is me, and then start instrumenting or implementing it? Because I know a lot of people, maybe don't know that about themselves. How did you find that out? And then what did you start doing with that immediately?
Most people I talk to and coach, and in all the countries I've been in around the world, training and coaching, advising executive teams and people, don't know much about this about themselves. I recently did it this week with a colleague working with me, very high IQ, one of the smartest people I know. He could build anything with any material with his hands, and he could build a computer, and he could rewrite a software language. And just being able to help him identify that EQ, IQ, the IQ being left and right brain, which is its own entity, and the emotional quotient. But the left brain is structured learning, the right brain is creative. But in the rear right lobe of your head is this, what they call reptilian sector of your brain. So in other words, if I throw a baseball at your head, you'll just move. You don't stop and wait till it hits you in the face and go, next time someone throws a baseball, I'll move my head. It's all reactive. So we can train ourselves on most of these reactive skills, making better decisions, allowing left and right brain to create. But most of the time, as a producer, I know if somebody shows up on the scene and I can look over at he or she and just look at them and go, no, it's a wrap. They're up in their head. The deal's dead if you're up in your head. I don't care if you're in sales. I don't care if you're a producer producing and you're trying to capture someone's emotion or portray a message with an actor, or even go into sales in a place, or be a waitress or be a business executive. Doesn't matter. I can tell if someone's up in their head and they're over processing. And that just means that they have too many files open. If I took my desktop here and I open every application, every file, everything on it, the CPU would run slow. And so I just know they're up in their head. They're not living with true intention. They're not driving forward. If they're down here, Deepak Chopra says, this is really the brain. You go to Wall Street and a stockbroker has 9 monitors in front of him, and all the information says, don't buy. And he says, I got a gut feeling. But you have all this empirical data of the entire history of the marketplace, and yet they say, I have a gut feeling, and they go with it. Which is so interesting that we learn to trust intuition, because generally we know right and wrong. We just convince ourselves with our right and left brain to do something against what we know to be true. This happens to happens to me, of course, because I'm human, but it happens to every human I know.
Absolutely. Wow. I love the statement that you made about the right and the left. And then how does someone get to the point, though, or what do you coach people to help them start doing that more consistently? Because it's one thing to do it every once in a while and get once in a while results. It's another thing to do it consistently and persistently and get sustainable, long-standing results. What do you do? How do you coach them to do that?
Well, here's one very simple thing. You can actually put a mirror or your finger under your nose and breathe through your nose. I can tell right now it's coming out of my left nostril, which is right brain. I can just tell you that I'm way in my creative right now. And what's interesting is going up in your head is one process. Identifying which brain you're using or which hemisphere you're using at one time is another process. But neurophysically, I can look at somebody, whether they're telling the truth or whether they're up in their head. If I'm in a boardroom and I'm talking to an executive team like I was last week, I could just tell he didn't know. His eyes were high and to the right. He was fidgety, he was moving. And I just said, can I help you with that? He said, yeah. I said, let's do this. Let's count together backwards from 10 to 1. What? He said, what? I said, you're up in your head. You're not flowing with your thought. I know you know the answer. It's your company, but can we do an exercise? Why? I said, can we just do an exercise? This is a creative session, and I want you to get the most benefit. Okay. And so I said, we'll start counting out loud from 10 down to 1. All right. I said, but just for a moment, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's do it twice. Then let's count. 10, 9, 8. With me out loud. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's a piece that just happened. Do it sometime. Do a breathing exercise. Go outside. If you're at the beach, so go to the beach or go to a pier or go to the peninsula or go to a jetty or go to a park. Go outside your house. Get some fresh air, sun on your face. Breathe in a couple times. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, and count from 10 down to 1. It's very interesting because it's such a pattern interrupt. It's such a shift. It's right now. And it's like, whew, you come right down, and all of a sudden you kind of look around like, whoa, I just landed. It's like, and people think like, how'd you do that? I say, well, it's not neurolinguistic programming. So just know I don't have control of your brain. It's you. And it's so tough for people to get at one with themselves before they start asking themselves questions. They're breathing shallow. Their neck is tense. Their veins are coming out. They're breathing like this. Little teeny breaths, like, the size of a Q-tip. Well, the brain's getting starved from oxygen. The body's not functioning. Drink some water, breathe some air, take a breath walk. I walk around my little block. One time I'm on a phone call. I get up, I walk around the block. It takes me about 7 minutes. I sit back down and make my next call. You would not believe how clear your brain is when you do this. Or I could make my next call. Okay, I'm so tense, I'm shut down. I'm just completely shut down.
So I imagine when you're talking to some of these C-level execs and stuff, they are just probably resistant as all get out at first.
Oh,
so what do you do?
I have been in boardrooms because you're talking about structured left brain,
Right.
Mr. Ganz, and I always make fun of this because all these executives in every boardroom you're in a whole boardroom, the whole company, there's always a guy named Bob. Bob's like that skeptical left brain thinker, MBA usually. Mr. Ganz, we realize you're one of those creative types, but somehow let's just rein it in and not get ahead of your skis. I know once I convert that, the entire rest of the room follows. Because that one person's holding the whole crowd back. Everybody knows the right answer. Everybody wants to do the right thing, but everybody's catering to that one guy named Bob. And it's not Bob, of course, you. I say it jokingly because you have to be so PC today. So Bob, I use as a generic Bob, but in this case, we could say Fred or Tom or Sally or George. But you always have to identify that person because they're generally sucking up all the oxygen in the room.
That's right. That's right.
And so
you say, limiting the thought processes of everyone else in the room.
Yeah. What was funny? Yeah. Wow. It was funny. We were producing a show many years ago for Michael Eisner's birthday at La Quinta, the resort in Palm Springs in the Coachella Valley, just adjacent to Palm Springs. And we're at this boardroom. There's got to be 50, 60 people in this boardroom. We were there with the entire team. We're talking about we could do this and we could do this and we could do this, and lasers and pyro and dancers and bands and music and food and this, that, and the other. It's going to be whatever. So we're there with the entire team, and it's not going to be cheap because it's Disney. It's the CEO.
Sure.
But about 4 hours later, after airing about 100 ideas, I leaned forward and I said, folks, Igor Stravinsky had a saying, which was, give me boundaries so I could be free. In this case, we've talked about so many wonderful ideas we could do. It was on the tennis courts at La Quinta. It was a big, big event. And it was every studio head and every actor and everybody that ever mattered in film. And so could we, just sort of, as we wrap today's session up, know that we've given you a lot of drawings, we've given you a lot of ideas, a lot of things we can do, a lot of capabilities, a lot of suggestions. And a guy to my left, about 20 people down, leaned forward, little fellow. Mr. Ganz, it was the Bob guy. There is no budget. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll bring back the SOW next week.
Wow.
And so we all got outside and we were like, look at each other. Did they want all of it? Did anybody write everything down? Did somebody write everything down? Because we talked for 4 hours, you know?
Right.
It's so funny. We are our biggest limitation because we have these self-imposed limits. So we can't live with true intention because we're our own gatekeeper. We're our own boundary. We impose our own walls.
Wow.
What if we didn't? But what if we did start every day by saying, this Igor Stravinsky saying, by give me limits so I can be free. So many people get out of their limits. They're way past their skis. And they come back at the end of the night and they're upset with themselves. They didn't achieve their goal. And I think this is the biggest thing that I take to heart every day. And I wake up humbly, you know, in God's eyes. And I say, what's my goal today? And another quick exercise is, again, take out the piece of paper and write down, what do you want to achieve today? Because we as humans always want to solve the most difficult things first. This is ubiquitous everywhere I've ever been in 52 countries. I'll go and consult with the executive team. Mr. Ganz, we know there's a problem, but we don't know what it is. So I go in as a consultant and I study it, you know, back last 90 days. Inevitably, it's the same every single time. And this is funny, Bob. And I'll come back to him a week or two later and I'll say, I figured out what the challenge is. What is it? And I say, well, if you go back from here, this big problem now is all the resources. It's got legal, it's got finance, it's got every executive team in the entire company. It was a yes or no question on a Thursday afternoon managers meeting. And just due to negligence, it was too easy of an answer because you could have just turned around and said, do it. Yes, no, whatever the answer would be. But they didn't do it. So what they do is they breed problems. Small problems become big problems. And it's always the same. I'll go into boardrooms and they'll beat on their chest. Well, I've come as a consultant to solve something. I know something's wrong. My father was a conglomerate CEO. He said, the fellows that make the most money, of course, being PC today, the people that make most money today are the problem solvers. So I listen to their thing and they beat their chest. They tell me everything's going on. The planes, the boats, the cars, the things, the manufacturing sales are up. Then at the end, they say, what do you think, Mr. Ganz? And I say, you have a communications problem. We do. Because it's the same every time. I do the same thing every time. Sometimes I don't even listen to the whole thing because I know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
We do. And it's always the same thing, inevitably. It's always negligence. People don't want to do the simple stuff, but they want to do the hard stuff. The hard stuff consumes all the resources, sometimes can't even get done, and sometimes never, ever gets addressed, which then becomes, you know, huge. Why do startups fail? They just want to do all the difficult. We're the problem solvers in the industry. We'll make the industry better. Okay, what about the simple stuff? Well, we don't do that because that's the easy part. And it's so profound, Bob. Every day of my life as a consultant, as a producer, as a senior executive, you know, at these companies, as a person that's gone in for executive teams to turn around companies since the .com on. I mean, it's so funny. Some of these things are so simple. And yet these people tell me, Mr. Ganz, I'm an MBA from USC. And I say, that's what I read on the website. And it's funny too, because, you know, I too have a PhD from MSU. Oh, you went to Michigan State University? I said, no, I have a private high school diploma from making stuff up. I'm a creative type.
Oh, they love you.
Oh, they do. Because, you know, they always look me up and my name online is big, you know, go to my LinkedIn channels, as big as you can get, you know, or go on social media. Since the day social media started, I contributed. And you can see every moment of my life, every day on every social platform, every day.
Yeah.
So it's tough to hide. And so I'm writing a book now called Live Transparent in a Social World. Because the only place you can hide today is in the public.
Ooh.
It's going to be big, Bob. I can't wait. I have a second one brewing. Which I think you'll like, called Blind Spot. And it's so funny. My entire career encapsulated into one word: blind spot. Everybody has it.
Right.
Everybody has it. And the ones that tell you they don't have it bigger.
Yeah.
And so what's so funny is I've always been brought in, you know, tell me what we're missing. In most cases, the conscious obvious, and most of it. because you have all your resources in one wedge of the pie, and there's 12 other wedges in the pie.
Yeah.
So this is an exercise I do with people when you're building an organization. Do a pie chart. How many, finance, business, operation, logistics, legal, just go through all that and leave them open. Do it on a whiteboard with the executive team. And now, who's got this category? Bob? Okay, good. And that's it, right? What are we missing? When you get done with the exercise, people look up and they go, OMG, ... every time. Blind spot.
Man, that's a powerful term too, if people can break it down, right? So they break, and what I love is you're coming in, giving them, knowing the answer, knowing the problem before you ever start. When I got challenged by one of my coaches, he says, "You're so masterful at coaching. What makes you so good?" And I go, well, I'm an intervention coach, so I break it down from the shortest distance between here and there. So yeah, but what's the process? I go, yeah, this was probably 15 years ago. And I'm like, the process, it's more in, I don't know. And he goes, I want you to do it. So he says, tell me what the first thing is you begin with. And I said, the very first thing I begin with is whatever they tell me is the problem isn't the problem. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt that what they call as a problem is typically the symptom. It's not the problem. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're just saying, I already know what they're going to say isn't really the issue.
We're exactly lockstep.
Yeah. I love that. You've done so much with your life. What's next? And what, you've got this new business you're launching. Let's talk about that and what started that, and then what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to start out with an analogy. If in the old days we all lived in a village and one of the houses caught fire, everybody in the community, man, woman, child, would grab a bucket, fill it with water, and run towards that fire. That's community. That's the strength. That's who we are as a people. That's what we would do by core value intuitively. It'd be inert in all of us. And so with this pandemic, it stopped everybody's business. There are no live events. There are no trade shows. There is no touring. There is, very little of a lot of things have happened. Yeah. There are some industries doing very well, and praise God, thank God that's true. And we still do have, a lot to be thankful for. But I took my engineering background, because I dealt in engineering, electronics, and show control systems, and lighting and sound and video and pyrotechnics, and producing shows and designing shows. So I have a very technical engineering mind. I have 9 engineering degrees in film and video. And I applied it to, let's solve COVID. Because I'm a germaphobe. I'm a germaphobe since day one. I don't touch handrails of escalators. I don't touch doorknobs. I've always been this way. I carry my own pillows and blankets everywhere I ever go, whether it's one night or 100 nights. I'm the biggest germaphobe. If I had Howard Hughes's money, I would live in a bubble, and I would just be rolled around in a bubble. That's probably the way I would be. But I know a lot of people like this. So when the pandemic came along, me and my partner is an attorney in Philadelphia, Ron, we had 14 companies in some form of PPE that would be categorized as PPE since the pandemic. And we were trying to fund them. They were in our portfolio. And when this happened, I said, put everything on the back burner. Let's get everything that would deal with eliminating COVID virus and make all environments safe. And I've done that. We're launching this company in the next week called Sterile Safe Solutions. And I have a little website up there right now. I'm just placeholding. I'm mostly doing one-to-one presentations to universities, K through 12, unified school districts, movie theaters, movie studios and networks, grocery stores, malls, retail shops, cruise ships. We're literally doing all of that, but we're using some really advanced technologies. Sometime on your show, if you ever want to see it, or do a show showing off what it is, because I don't believe that I have a secret. I've amassed the best technologies in clean room technologies, and germ warfare, in infectious environments, in hotels, in disease-ridden environments. So all these technologies have been around for decades, and some of them are new twists on old technologies, but all of them are certified by EPA, CDC, NIH, all these, FDA. And so I've brought it together as a solution for classrooms, which we're working with a bunch of unified school districts right now doing presentations. Restaurant chains, one restaurant chain has 40,000 restaurants, 250,000 employees. school districts. One school district here has 17 campuses, 500 classrooms, and that's just in my city.
Wow.
Of course, going across America, but across the world. But to have something. Now, the analogy of everybody in the village would run with a bucket to that house on fire. 187 countries are burning right now.
Yeah.
So this is something I think everybody's got to do. Everybody's got to come to everybody's aid, whether it's their own house, their own town, their own city, their own state, their own country, the world, whatever they can do to metaphorically run with that bucket to help everybody. That's the call to action. That's the leadership responsibility I think every single person has. I've personally taken that on myself.
Wow.
And I'm dealing with hundreds of people that just want to do it with me. And will we make money? Yes, money will come. That's not the issue. Of course, it's an enormously successful business plan, idea, model, but that's not what it's for. It's for giving back. And in this book I wrote about social media in 2008 called The Belongings Network, and the 6 basic human needs. Belonging is number 1, meaning my contribution equals significance to me personally or professionally. Yeah. And we give more to our church and our charity than we do our job or our family. And that significant value is what I want to take to market with Sterile Safe Solutions and come up with a solution. I have a solution. I have the solution. Now, there's thousands of others. I would pray, I hope, I beg every day on my knees that white light, God's light shines through me. And I hope this is a movement and I don't think it will be stopped. And I'm doing it purely from outcome perspective.
Love that. So you have this presentation already canned and ready, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
So if we did a Zoom and is it like PowerPoints or what would you need?
It's a PowerPoint on Zoom, and I would just go through the slides, and it takes just a couple minutes to illustrate the environments. Okay. There are hundreds of tools, but I've built them down to package A and package B. So, anytime you're ready, I'd love to do it. I think it'd be very enlightening for anyone and everyone. I think that we'll look back on time. It'll be like one of those watershed moments where, if there was video or film back in the day when they hit 2 rocks together and made sparks and caused fire. This is almost what it is. And I say that because at the end of the day, my role in the new company is CFO. I'm the chief fun officer. Okay. And I'm gonna be the Walmart greeter to embrace everybody that wants to come in and help save humanity. I'm a little bit passionate about it. I may be caffeinated, but I'm unstoppable at this point.
I've never seen you not living in passion though. I mean, every time I've been around you at an event or at your house or you've always been this passionate about the projects you're involved in. So that's one of the things I love about you and just have really admired about you. As we wrap this up, I'm going to get back to you and we're going to schedule a time to do that other one, because I definitely want to do that. Everyone asks who's influenced you the most in your life. I want to change that question a little bit. How has the most influential person in your life influenced you?
Well, I'd have to start with my father. He was a wonderful man, very successful man. But he started out as a cowboy, and he'd say these profound things, just touch me, impact me every day of my life. And I end up telling him to thousands of people. I've said them from stage. I've said them all over the world. Everybody I talk to, everybody I coach, everybody I mentor, everybody asks for my advice. Inevitably, they come through me. I mean, so it's profound how blessed I was to have my father, there are certainly influential people that have changed my life. Tony Robbins certainly being one. Sure. Biggest for the longest period of time as executive producer all over the world producing his shows. Even though I'm running around dealing with unions and Teamsters and venues and people and AV and logistics and shows and I'm still even have one ear open. But for years I've been doing human potential, self-help, peak performance, personal development, coaching. John Gray, Barbara DeAngelis, Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Deepak Chopra. I've gone all day long. Those are my clients. And you've seen the walls. They're covered, with celebrities in film, television, authors, coaches, motivators, human potentialists, music, innovators. So I'm so blessed that every day of my life, I was able to serve people whose missions were so big, literally touch the world. If I look back at the people I worked with, their job was to touch the world with their message. And I got to be a part of that. So that's my blessing. And I can only share that infinitely.
Yeah. What a great contribution. And I just want to tell you, thank you for being that catalyst for so many people, because I think there's a lot of brilliance out there, a lot of people with great hearts and great ideas that don't know how to bring them to the masses. And so thank you for being that person for the rest of us to be able to experience some of those great thought leaders that we would have never known without somebody like you in their corner. So thank you for doing that. Flo, do you want to bring yourself on and make a comment or ask a question? There she is. This is Flo.
Oh my gosh, Bill.
Hello, Flo.
Wow. Love your energy. Oh my gosh. Got so many nuggets, the 3% effort, to get the 100% result, just like mic drop, mind blowing, but so simple. How do you relax?
Well, Flo, that's funny that you asked me. I'm kind of like a sugared up third grader. my relaxing, might be a lot of different things. I love to travel. Wine tasting's my hobby. I do two things consistently. I go to wine countries and I wine taste. And anything I do has to do with two things: wine tasting and mineral water. And almost in any wine growing region, there's always mineral water. So I luckily do that. And so whether it's for a client on a show or a project, or it's my own personal travels, that's the mandate.
That's cool.
Well, we have wine country up here. I'm on the Central Coast, so.
Oh, I'm a Paso freak. I've been going to Paso for 30 years. And when I started, there was about 15 wineries, and now there's over 500. There's more in Paso than there are in Napa and Sonoma put together.
Really?
Wow,
yep.
I didn't know that.
I love the Paso juice too. I love the minerality. I love the current, the jamminess, the big flavors. Oh, I just love that region.
Wow.
Well, you have to come up and visit then.
I count on it.
All right, sounds good.
Flo has a company called Farm Girl Edibles, and it's not that kind of edible. But
in California, though, it's okay, Bob. I mean,
right? Yeah,
but they'll deliver it if you like.
Yeah, true. She makes custom gourmets, jellies, and jams that are just phenomenal. And she's got 3 that are wine flavored. So you probably try those. So that'd be great. But Bill, I just want to tell you, thank you for hopping on. Thanks for being available. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate your infectious spirit, and I appreciate who you are in this world and how you allow others to play bigger. And you being the catalyst for that. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for your friendship. And we'll definitely have to get together again here soon and come up to Paso or Flo is, and I'll meet up we'll come down there and do something fun. But I appreciate you, brother.
Awesome, Bob. I sure appreciate you, Flo. It's a pleasure meeting you, and we'll talk soon. But I'd love to show you that presentation of how we change the world one person at a time.
Definitely. I'm gonna get with you, and we're gonna schedule that time.
Great, Bob. Thank you. God bless you today.
All right. Likewise, brother. Take care.
Be well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell. To find out more, call us at 949-542-6398. That's 949-542-6398. Or you can find more information on our website at everythingnextlevel.com. That's everythingnextlevel.com.